Hey, what's up everyone? Birdman here. Really quick announcement. YouTube has finally enabled Super Thanks on my channel. If you don't know what Super Thanks is, it's the little heart near the description of the video that allows you to send me a highlighted comment and donate to support this channel. And as a thank you for your support, I will be reading the Super Thanks comments at the end of these videos. And yes, that includes the negative ones and funny voices as well. And as always, if you haven't seen the previous video in this series, well, you know what to do. "58 seconds of advertisements," which would be fine, as you gotta pay the bills like everyone else, except you yourself have set the precedent of getting on with it. I normally wouldn't even send this, but as this series is meant to do to you what you do to movies, a sin's a sin.
Are you sure you want to commence the drone attack? There will be significant casualties.
Do it! Execute them all!
Oh, this movie is starting with manipulated footage of a good guy to make it seem like he killed a lot of innocent people. Does that mean we're gonna get the running Spider-Man? Now that's a multiverse I can get behind.
But Jeremy, you have already seen this footage in Far From Home. What's the point of pretending this is new footage and that this film is starting with manipulated footage? You wouldn't happen to be padding the sin count, would you? Nah, you'd never do that.
Also, a extraordinary 1 minute and 9 seconds of logos.
Exactly my point 2 sins ago. The entire point of this sin is that the movie isn't getting on with it, so why do you do this exact thing and advertise at the beginning of your videos? Isn't branding their way of paying the bills? Also, that was a nice amount of time for that logo. I would have removed a sin, or 420 of them.
Spider-Man slings his way into a subway tunnel on East 59th Street in Manhattan and emerges on 47th Street in Queens for an altogether unnecessary 8 miles of subway tunnel travel that most likely would have ended in death.
It obviously wasn't unnecessary. As you skipped over the beginning, Spider-Man and Michelle were being hounded by people in helicopters. They traveled underground because not only is that the best Tony Hawk series, it's also the best way to avoid people.
Oh no! Oh god! Oh no! Peter? I don't know what to do!
Peter?
If we can hear what's going on, then Happy should be able to as well, and it doesn't take a genius to know it's probably not something he wants to be walking in on.
Unless you're R. Kelly.
Is that
here?
When Peter opens the blind, none of the blinds in the apartment building on TV open up at all.
Could you have even seen that? What?
Why is Time choosing to focus on him being Tony Stark's protege instead of all the murder? And what kind of a front cover is this anyway? Are they really just taking a pop at his age?
This is the movie poking fun at the morons that call Spider-Man Iron Boy Jr. Those people are obviously not worth addressing, but it's a pretty funny moment given they're calling them crybabies like this image. If there's one thing you can say about the MCU, it's that they're self-aware. Remember the Thanos was right graffiti in Hawkeye? Exactly.
Man, I sure am glad I watched Stardust before this, because I would have been totally lost on who this was.
Hey, that was my joke.
I have some good news, Peter.
And I have some bad news. I don't know who the you are. Why is it in the third DC Spider-Man movie do they just randomly throw in a deaf dude?
Peter, you may have dodged your legal troubles, but things will get much worse. There is still a court of public opinion.
Man, people turned on Spidey quick. Considering how much they deified Stark in Far From Home for his involvement in the unblippiting, you would think Spider-Man would have some equal goodwill carry over from helping to defeat Thanos, right?
I agree. It's one of my few issues with this movie's premise. It doesn't make any sense that the world became aware of Tony's actions, but not those of Spider-Man, so we have to assume they do know and are playing the world's worst version of the trolley problem. I get that murder is wrong, but to so quickly turn on Spider-Man after he helped save the entire universe is outrageous, and they should at least hear him out. But just like what people are doing to JK, they're letting their one issue with the person discolor all the good that they have done. No, activists, we are not canceling Harry Potter because you dislike Rowling. We're canceling WB for firing Johnny Depp.
Peter and Aunt May live pretty high up in this apartment building, right? Like, they were eye to eye with the news helicopter earlier when Peter opened the blinds. So how does someone throw a brick this straight and accurately from the street?
You have assumed it was from the street. In the scene where the helicopters outside the apartment are shown, you can see there are buildings directly across from May's apartment. There are groups of people on the tops of these buildings with a direct line of sight to the window, and as New York is known for people with strong arms, it's clear... I'm sorry. I couldn't finish that line. Everyone knows New York isn't known for quarterbacks.
Why does the discovery of major plot MacGuffins like this Magic Curie box always have to be pitched as a serendipitous surprise? The unbelievable thing isn't that he finds it, it's that the damn thing exists in the first place.
So what was the problem with that scene? You admit he should be surprised about something, and he was. Your actual problem is that the thing exists, so this question was irrelevant. I know it sounds like I'm being pedantic here, but you're contradicting yourself with these words. The sin could have been far simpler with you noting the device and moving on. Instead, you asked a question that had barely anything to do with the reason for the sin.
You both like each other, we get it, hang up. There's no new ground being broken.
Happy would be Andrew Garfield at Spider-Man-Sins.
That didn't make sense.
And if you want to read about our inspiring friendship, you can now in my new book, Flashpoint.
I'm this close to dedicating an entire video to everything wrong with this single frame of the movie. How did Flash manage to get a f***ing book written, picked up by a publisher, proofed, edited, rewritten, re-edited, and ready to sell in the time since he found out Peter was Spider-Man? If an entire f***ing year has passed, the movie should really tell us that.
But this is the movie telling you some time has passed. Clearly, a book being written implies a time passage, but you don't even need that. There is a montage right before this showing the Time magazine you were whining about earlier and the paint being thrown on his red and black suit. You just weren't paying attention.
We now pause the most anticipated movie since before the end times to bring you 2 full minutes of college rejection letters.
Yes. Let's skip over Peter's motivation for asking Strange for help. This won't come back to bite us in the ass later.
In light of recent controversy, we are unable to consider your application at this time.
Based on what we know about abusing the college admission system, I am shocked that Peter, being a superpowered vigilante, was enough to get him and his friends rejected. Heck, this kind of publicity should have bought them all scholarships. Who wouldn't want to say that Spider-Man attends their college?
Jeremy, have you been to a college campus in the past 10 years? Let's just say the patients are running the asylum.
Also, sure is a good thing MIT told these guys exactly why they weren't being accepted. Otherwise, this whole movie doesn't happen. MIT is like the person you're in love with in high school who's like, I'd really like to date you, but things are so crazy right now. Give me time to think about it. And then 1 week later, they're dating Brad. Brad.
Toxic masculinity.
This dickhead Flash Thompson still gets into MIT, even though he wrote a book about being Peter's best friend. Jesus. I guess MIT saw through that bullshit and said, yeah, but he's not really Peter's friend, so let's accept this liar into our school.
Welcome to the joke. We've been waiting for you.
Dr. Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Master of the Mystic Arts, is a dick to these guys for making them shovel up all this snow instead of poofing it away.
Doctor Strange is no longer the Sorcerer Supreme. That would be Gilgamesh. I mean Wong.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Dr. Strange gets into this spell before even consulting Peter how it will work or asking any questions. He doesn't even ask, are you sure you want the people closest to you to forget you? Sorcery should have more considerations and barriers than a computer asking if you want to delete K-19 the Widowmaker off your hard drive.
And here's where I will disagree with you, and by extension everyone that's been trying to make this point on the internet. What you and people like you have been doing with this scene and the plot as a whole is applying an out-of-universe criticism to an in-universe character. There is no doubt that Strange and Peter are making a mistake here, but those mistakes are on purpose. They are a part of the plot and characterization of these characters. Strange has literally been characterized as a person who constantly makes mistakes with magic. His first film had him playing around with the time gem, and as a result, Mordo became a villain. In Infinity War, he chose not to destroy the gem or avoid conflict, which led to Thanos winning. In What If, Strange becomes an amalgam of all the dark magic he consumes in the pursuit of saving his love interest. This is who he is. He consistently makes questionable decisions and pays for it later. As Mordo once said, the bill comes due.
Can't some people still know?
That's not how the spell works.
And yet that's exactly what you try to do here in a minute, as if there's some MJ, Ned, and Aunt May exception to the spell you're casting. I doubt the ancient sorcerers who made these spells were all about improvisation and ordering omissions a la carte.
Which is why everything gets f***ed up, no? What are you doing here, recapping the plot?
All right, fine. Everyone in the world's going to forget that you're Spider-Man except your girlfriend.
So, not that difficult to change mid-casting, then?
Difficult does not mean impossible. And as Jay-Z once said, impossible only takes a week.
Flash, please come on and help me. You know what I want. Okay, I'll tell everyone that you're my best friend.
Except that's really not what Flash would want anymore, right? If people think he's Peter's best friend, then there's a good chance he gets rejected from MIT.
Not if he can convince the Chancellor. You know, what happens in the movie?
So begins Spider-Man Ice-capades. Come on to see your favorite characters. 3 times the villains, 3 times the... Skip. Also, as fun as everyone seems to be having with all the old villains coming back, it would have been nice if some other villain we'd never seen before showed up from some other universe as of yet unrealized, with Jake Gyllenhaal playing one of the unrealized Spider-Mans. You could have had some major fun with that, guys, and you blew it.
But you missed the point of the fan service. This was a love letter to Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man films. They gave you the best villains from the Raimi films, a do-over for the botched Fox Locke's Electro and a redemption arc for Andrew's Spider-Man. They even threw in Tom Hardy's Venom for the maniacs that like that rubbish. I wouldn't say they blew this at all, especially considering it's currently the highest rated Spider-Man film ever by the fans, even over Spider-Man 2 and Into the Spider-Verse. Listen, you get the fans to rank a Spider-Man film higher than those two movies? It means something.
My friends and I just got a second chance to get into MIT, and if the school sees me fighting these crazy monsters...
The Vice-Chancellor just watched him fight one of these monsters, and that secured him a place at MIT. If the admissions board continues to see him rescuing the world, isn't that going to strengthen his case even more?
I'm so sorry for dragging you into this. Listen, you just gotta help me find these guys.
You don't have to apologize, okay? You got us a second shot at MIT.
The whole reason you assholes didn't get into MIT in the first place is because you helped Peter do his Spider-Man shit. Peter's been moping this whole movie because he dragged MJ and Ned into his adventures. Now they get a second chance and Peter asks them to do more? And they agree?
How is it even possible to contradict yourself this hard, not even 2 sins apart? Fam, you just made the case MIT's admissions board should recognize Peter as a hero, and now you're saying MJ and Ned shouldn't help because that would look bad to MIT? What brand of dog food are you on? I'd love to get it for my dog. Dude, we don't have a dog. The hell are you talking about? I'm talking about your mama. Disregarding the alternate universe thing, you realize we have the same mother, right?
Hey, shut up!
You can work in the Undercroft.
The Undercroft?
Is this the place where gamers make Tomb Raider porn?
Did you guys see that?
No.
Does his Peter Tingle only work during the day?
You quite literally spoke too soon. The very next scene is Peter Spider-Sense reacting to Electro behind him.
What's happening?
And introducing the birthday boy who crashed a party of hundreds of genetically modified...
Skip!
This is the second time Spider-Man has been saved by something completely ridiculous. This time it's Sandman showing up, for some reason. Anyway, everyone who clapped when Sandman appeared probably hated Spider-Man 3. That's the kind of movie this is.
Let's break down this nonsense. First, Sandman showed up for some reason? You mean the same reason literally all the other villains showed up? And second, you're sinning the fact that this movie fixes some of the issues in 2 bad Spider-Man films? That is the kind of movie this is. Trying to make you forget about TASM 2 and Spider-Man 3. That's why people clapped.
What did you just do to him?
No, it's okay,
Did you kill him?
Whoa, listen, I can explain everything, you just have to trust me.
Or you could tell him exactly what you did instead of repeating the same platitude over and over, hoping for a different outcome. Hey, that's exactly what I do.
Jeremy sends something he does cliche.
Dr. Kurt Connors, he was a scientist at Oscorp when I worked there.
Last I recall, you had bad teeth, glasses, and a comb-over.
How the hell would Connors know what Max originally looked like? The whole point was that no one knew who he was, and by the time he gained infamy, he was stuck looking like a zappy Navi.
You're asking why would one of the top scientists at Oscorp know one of the engineers at Oscorp? I know the multiverse can be a bit confusing, but you know these two are from the same franchise, right?
I couldn't do any of this without you, so thank you.
Except you absolutely could. Even a Bing search would have yielded similar results.
That's true, but you sinned Peter 3 multiple times for using it.
I had him by the throat, and then I...
Doc Ock and Electro both talk about how they were about to die killing Spider-Man, setting the foundation for this movie's Rehab the Villain story. But the movie seems to forget that several of the villains already had redemptive arcs. Doc Ock snapped out of it when Peter electrocuted him in the first movie, and he died trying to destroy his machine. Sandman had a huge redemptive arc in Spider-Man 3 and left the movie peacefully. Connors was cured at the end of The Amazing Spider-Man and even tried to protect Peter in the end credits scene. Even if the villains as portrayed here don't know their fates, giving them a magic cure-all ruins the redemptive arcs they've already achieved.
First of all, Dr. Octopus was in the second movie, not the first. You're also forgetting these versions were taken while they were still evil, and that half these guys died. You mentioned Octavius snapped out of it, but the point is that he died in that moment. Sandman left peacefully, but he was still made out of sand, something he doesn't like. Yes, Connors got cured, but not before he killed Gwen Stacy's father. If these guys get sent back cured, the events leading up to their death and the deaths of others will most likely be mitigated, nixing the need for redemption in the first place.
What is that?
It's an ancient relic, the Machina de Cadavis.
The Ex-Cadabra Machina? Really?
I like to think my version of this sin was also better. Also, the Machina de Cadavis? All right, check this out. First of all, you're throwing too many big words at me. Because I don't understand them, I'm going to take them as disrespect. Watch your mouth and help me with the spell.
In the grand calculus of the multiverse, their sacrifice means infinitely more than their lives.
How the f*** do you know that? You just said earlier that nobody even really knows anything about the multiverse.
He said they know little, not that they know nothing.
How are you doing that?
I have no idea.
You should not be able to do that.
No explanation is given for this.
It doesn't need one. That's his spider sense.
What is this place?
The mirror dimension, where I'm in control.
Honestly, this Doctor Strange vs. Spider-Man mini-Civil War shouldn't even be a challenge, but Spidey somehow comes out on top in the end.
This comes across as if you think Spider-Man cannot defeat Doctor Strange in a battle, which is weird considering they are literally showing you Spider-Man defeating him in a battle. Spider-Man is simply too fast for Strange and has precognition. This was shown at the end of the film when Goblin tried to kill Strange, and basically all the Spider-Men reacted before Strange could even think. In the comic book world, we call this getting statued, which means you are orders of magnitude slower than your opponent, which means you would probably be killed in a speed blitz. When Peter gets serious, this guy can defeat the likes of Fire-Lord, a herald of Galactus.
Parker, don't you realize that in the multiverse there are an infinite number of people who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man? And if that spell gets loose, they're all coming here.
Do you want Dane DeHaan to come here? Because that's how you get Dane DeHaan.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
You know what's cooler than magic? Math.
Nerd!
Sinning Spider-Man for being smart.
Fine, I'll buy that Peter somehow uses his Parker prescience combined with geometry to figure out how to pull this off, but why does that immediately mute Strange's ability to bend this dimension to his will?
Just like Thanos in the Infinity Gauntlet, you're not understanding one needs to use hand gestures to perform magic. As you can see, his hands are currently tied. No pun intended.
If something bad happens, I'll text you, and then you just push this.
Why not have the box nearby in case you can't text her? You made a huge deal about needing MJ and Ned for your multiversal villain search, and all you did was make them surf the web. And you're about to bring villains around Aunt May and not give it a second thought.
Those three things have literally nothing to do with each other. You just presented three separate ideas and somehow construed them as a single sin in response to this scene. What the hell? In fact, the third idea contradicts the first. If he's about to be around villains, why would he keep the Machina Dicadavis with him on the off chance he fails? They tried to destroy it, the thing that actually happens in this movie, and then you said he gave them nothing to do. Yeah, now he's giving them something to do. This sin is what I'm saying.
It's a fabricator. It can analyze, design, construct basically anything.
Literally anything the plot desires. Man, it is damn hard to stay invested when the writers are so willing to lean on the Stark built it cliche whenever they need a very specific piece of tech to move the plot along.
You say this as if this is the first time we're seeing this device. It was in Far From Home, the same kind of device that created the suit Peter 1 is currently wearing.
The place where I worked at.
Dr. Connors mentioned that Max worked at Oscorp earlier, but it's weird that Max doesn't mention it by name here, and doesn't seem all that interested in the differences between the Willem Dafoe Norman Osborn and the short-lived Chris Cooper version from his world.
But Sandman already heard it earlier. What would be the point of repeating where he works when that dialogue already happened? This is like saying 50 seconds of logos in every video. We get it.
But that doodad was at like 90%, so shouldn't Electro at least be a little weaker? Or does it charge up and then suck everything out on the last bar? If that's the case, why not charge it up and put it on him at the last second? Basically, this is one more MacGuffin thingy that will work or not work exactly how and when the plot needs it to.
The device was working and almost rid him of his electricity. The part you cut out shows that after he removed the device, he began siphoning energy from the arc reactor.
Now I gotcha.
Got him how? He's getting his ass kicked. He looks heroic as right now. Plus, you're the only news channel with cameras on a battle between four super beings, and there is zero need to focus on making Peter look bad.
You're wondering why a fringe tabloid hack would focus on the subject of his smear agenda and ignore anything contrary to that opinion? Apparently, Jeremy has never heard of Fox News.
Peter's crashed through several floors, and this goblin bomb blows him the hell up, but it's okay. He's got that incredible strength of a spider, infamous for their inability to be killed.
Superhuman strength, toughened flesh, superhuman durability, regenerative healing factor.
You did the right thing. They would have been killed.
First off, there are three villains who we know didn't die in their respective movies.
Actually, there are two villains that didn't die, Sandman and Lizard. Doc Ock, Goblin, and Electro all perished in their fights with Spider-Man.
You have power. And with great power, there must also come great responsibility.
This rings so hollow in this.
No. Sinning this line.
Me?
I know movies need inciting incidents like this to motivate their protagonists, and naturally, the more traumatic, the better. But it's beginning to feel like the only way Marvel knows how to do this is by taking an almost literal sledgehammer to a beloved character. We've seen it with Coulson, Frigga, Groot, Iron Man, Black Widow, Quicksilver, Yondu, Odin, T'Chaka, Gamora, Vision, Ajax. Holy shit! They really do this all the f***ing time.
For a dude that always complains about stakes, you sure as f*** miss when people actually die.
When will people wake up and realize that everywhere Spider-Man goes, chaos and calamity ensue?
I still can't get on board with the argument that all this destruction and shit would be blamed on Spider-Man instead of the guy dropping the bombs, the giant lizard that threw him through the window, or the metal octopus man. This is like blaming paramedics for causing car crashes because they're always found at the scene.
This thinking has already been addressed with the Sokovia Accords in Civil War. Vision specifically stated that there is a causality, that a hero's very strength invites challenge. This is all moot anyway because this is literally Spider-Man's fault. Who went to Strange asking for a spell again?
I just wish we could see him.
The sheer random chance that this movie relies on is unbelievable. The arrival of Garfield and Maguire only happens because A, Ned suddenly has a history of magic in the family.
And let me stop you right there. Peter 2 and Peter 3 do not only show up because of Ned, they were both already in this universe. All Ned did was open portals so they could team up in this house. They would have both eventually found Peter 1 through the usage of their spider sense. I would ask if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, but you've seen that film, so the answer is obviously no.
But then yesterday, I was just here.
Yesterday? What is the nature of the containment that Dr. Strange put around the spell? He said he contained it, but apparently people are still slipping through the cracks somehow, in dramatically relevant order.
Everything happened yesterday. Are you not paying attention to the time? When Doc Ock attacked the bridge, it was clearly daytime. When Peter 1 captured Electro, it was clearly nighttime. When they all met up in Happy's condo, it was daytime again. Do I need to spell it out any further, or do you need me to continue holding your hand?
I don't carry an ID with me, you know, it kind of defeats the whole anonymous superhero thing.
Dude, of the three Spider-Mans, you are the worst at keeping your identity a secret. You have never given a shit about this, and you willingly stepped into a portal and removed your mask as soon as you could.
Says Andrew is the worst at keeping this secret in a movie where Tom Holland's identity is the literal plot of the film.
The superhero thing? Why'd you do that?
I was trying to see if you have the tingle thing.
Okay, the bread bit is pretty funny, but why does MJ find it so hard to believe that Spider-Man is Peter Parker? She knows the spell is pulling in people from different dimensions, so I feel like this was more about showing us Andrew Garfield doing spider things than it was about putting MJ at ease.
What if this was an evil impersonator brought from another universe? You know, like this guy from the very famous meme? Actually, a lot of this movie borrows from that old episode, like the paint being thrown at Peter and Electro and Green Goblin being on the loose.
And now here's the other asshole just wandering around in street clothes like he's just coming off a 16-hour session at Molly Bloom's poker game.
I'm just gonna attack on 100 Sins for sending this scene, not because you are contradicting yourself, given Peter 2 here isn't willy-nilly with his secret identity, but because this is one of the greatest moments in fan service history. This is right on up there with On Your Left in Endgame, and I can't be convinced otherwise.
I really have no idea why the Garfield Spider-Man starts shooting webs at the Maguire one. Did either of them get spider sense when they saw the other? Do either of them seem threatening? Why does everybody make uninformed decisions in this movie?
This is their spider sense alerting them. Typically, when that happens, their bodies instinctively react. Their sense was reacting to the other, so they mistook it for danger.
There's some people here.
They're hanging out super high up on this tower because why would they do anything normal like simply walk up and greet you like fellow humans?
Because they're Spider-Man? This is like asking Batman to walk through the front door.
There is a clear front entrance, unlocked and completely wide open due to all the going down.
Jeremy sends Batman for Batmaning. I mean, this guy seriously just suggested that Batman walk through the front door. Oh, right. He's already done that.
My Uncle Ben was killed.
I lost Gwen.
Dude, you lost your Uncle Ben too. Are you even going to acknowledge that?
Gwen was more recent and led him down a darker path, even darker than the one he went down when Ben died. I mean, this guy was a villain for the better part of the beginning of The Amazing Spider-Man.
Try to keep going, try to keep being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, because I know that's what she would have wanted.
No, I'm pretty sure what Gwen would have wanted was a chance to pursue that scholarship at Oxford.
Yells at the screen.
I hunted down the man who I thought did it. I wanted him dead. I got what I wanted.
I'm just going to leave it there. No need to provide further context that guy tripped over some weird pipe and fell out a window. It's a better story if you think I'm a murdering asshole.
What would be the point of that exposition, eh, CinemaSins? He said he wanted him dead, and he got what he wanted. The entire point of this dialogue is to suggest that revenge does not make the pain go away.
I think I can make an anti-serum for Dr. Osborn. Been thinking about it a long time.
Oh, no you haven't.
Yells at the screen cliche.
You never had a web block? Because I run out of webs all the time. I have to make my own in a lab.
This whole scene on the top of the Statue of Liberty is funny and all, but it plays like some sort of 3-minute video you run across while scrolling through Twitter when you find out that Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland got together for, I don't know, Crohn's disease awareness or something, and decided to do this for charity, and Josh Gad is there for some reason.
What the fuck?
Ned can't close the portal, even though he had to have done it earlier after the other Peters came through. Or did he? Are there portals still open in Ned's grandmother's house?
You literally saw Peter 2 say this.
I hope it's okay. I just came through this, just closed.
I need Max's cure!
Yeah, I'm on it!
Peter, I need the lizard cure!
Just wondering, why didn't they make several different sets of these serums for each Spider-Man to have? And some spares? The fabricator machine is a goddamn miracle, so this would have been easy to do.
It's almost like the fabricator had its energy source ripped out by Electro and was destroyed or something.
Where's the box, Peter?
Flint, we can help everyone!
I don't care!
Wait, doesn't Sandman want to get back to his universe and get a shot at seeing his daughter? Heck, Peter is even giving him a chance to be human again. To be honest, I don't really understand why anyone is fighting anyone right now, but Sandman's motivations are the most baffling by far.
Just like the other villains, Sandman is unaware of his fate if he goes back to the Raimi-verse. They were all taken away before they died, so Sandman's motivations are self-preservation at this point.
Can the Spider-Man come out to play?
Oh, f you, Green Goblin, I'm over it. You could have been here way earlier and you weren't, and I have absolutely no faith that you can take on 3 Spider-Men, Otto, and Doctor Strange by yourself.
You said that like Goblin knew there were 3 Spider-Men or even who Doctor Strange is. And it's weird to me that earlier you implied all these guys would take their own time to get here given their respective circumstances for watching the broadcast.
I mean, presuming that Electro, Goblin, Sandman, and the sewer-dwelling lizard are all waiting by a TV that's tuned into the Daily Bugle, it's gonna take hours or never.
But now you're here saying Goblin took too long.
I'm sorry, but this intervention doesn't mean shit. Peter 1 is a murderer. He had committed to decapitating Osborn with his own sled. And Peter 2 stepping in at the last second to stop him doesn't change shit. What it does is take away all of Peter 1's agency and rob us of knowing if he's actually experienced any growth from the last 2.5 hours.
Thank you for pointing things out on the screen. Now, would you like to explain why this is a sin of this movie? Literally all the Peters committed to killing the killer of Uncle Ben. What you and people like you don't realize is the past 3 Spider-Man movies have been the origin story for MCU Spider-Man. This is him learning that killing isn't the answer, and along with everyone forgetting his identity and losing access to Stark Tech, he goes on to become the Spider-Man we're all most familiar with.
But this time make everyone forget who Peter Parker is.
No.
But it would work, right?
Yeah, it would work.
How the f can that possibly work? The scope of that spell is mind-boggling. This means rewriting every interaction that Peter has ever had and retconning the memories of billions of people. Does Stark come to find him in Civil War? Does Aunt May just not have a nephew? How does she end up involved with Spider-Man? Does the memory of things people did with Peter have blurring or a photo of Mark Wahlberg's face taped over Tom Holland's?
I'm frankly amused that people don't understand how this works. The spell is for everyone to forget Peter Parker is Spider-Man. This means that those who knew simply will now separate the two. Peter Parker exists, but as a separate entity from Spider-Man, who also still exists. For his friends, they never met Peter Parker, and for May, yes, she never had a nephew. It's not difficult at all, you're overthinking it. This was explained in the scene at the beginning of the movie, which is why he kept trying to change the spell. But fret not, my sweet summer children. This is the MCU. Any threads you think are loose will be explained in later films because these movies are all one giant story, and you've simply ended a chapter, not the book. This is how all these movies have worked for the past 14 years. Except what happened with the leader, which they answered with a comic.
You're saying that this whole place here, it's just tons of super people.
Is this movie trying to say that Venom was brought here by the Doctor Strange spell? When did the Tom Hardy Venom know Peter was Spider-Man? Is this supposed to be the Topher Grace Venom, but with Tom Hardy? What the f*** is the meaning of this?
This was explained at the end of Venom 2. The symbiotes share consciousness across universes. Don't bullshit me, CinemaSins. You've seen that movie, so I know you saw it. But don't you mean... I know what I said, FB. Don't sass me right now, goddammit.
Thirsty?
Well, yes, I am thirsty.
Fresh water or salt? You know, because you're an octopus.